For a franchise that is now hitting its 40th anniversary very soon, it's kind of funny to think that this whole franchise started with one small film with a very small budget, and yet it's gone on to become a zeitgeist in and of itself. So, yeah, time to go back to where it all started.
Bring 'em hard! Ready!
Ghostbusters, starring Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, Harold Ramis, Rick Moranis. Coming to save the world. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters, 1984, and I'm only referring to it as that because I don't want people to get confused with the 2016 one, and I know what people are going to say, so I'm just going to skip over it. I'm just referring to it as Ghostbusters 1984. So Ghostbusters 1984 is directed by Ivan Reitman and is written by both Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis. The film stars Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, Harold Ramis, and Rick Moranis. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, three parapsychologists forced out of their university funding, set up shop as a unique ghost removal service in New York City, attracting frightened yet skeptical customers. Ghostbusters is a franchise that's still going on to this day. I mean, we just recently had a film that came out 2 months ago. I know I'm catching up, but we will get to that very soon as I get to the other ones. I remember watching Ghostbusters when I was young, and I really enjoyed the film then, and having rewatched the film in preparation for Frozen Empire, it's still a hilarious film that holds up very well. Probably some minor issues here and there, but overall, unanimously, is still a classic for a reason. Here are some of the positives that I found with the film. Performances are hysterical. All three members of the Ghostbusters, Murray, Aykroyd, and Ramis, are funny. Murray brings the sarcastic and deadpan nature to Peter Venkman while being the lazy man to him, because of course, why would Bill Murray not want to be the lazy man? Even though when you look at him, you're like, this guy's a schlub. But yet, chicks dig him, I guess. I don't know why. But yeah, Murray is funny. But he's such an asshole in this movie. I mean, he really is just that one member who just looks like he could care less about what he's doing and just focus more about, well, I just want to get girls. That's why I'm a Ghostbusters. Nevertheless, Murray is funny. Aykroyd is sharp and witty to Ray's stance, while also bringing the curiosity to him. And, I mean, this guy, how I would describe him today would be like, he's almost like a conspiracy theorist. But not one that's like, we know most conspiracy theorists to be, which are insane, crazy people. He's more or less so like the fun, goofy loving type of one, where he's not that crazy, but could come up with some crazy concoctions. Still, Aykroyd is still entertaining as stands. Ramis is bizarre and brilliant as Egon Spengler while bringing the quirky nature to him, and I think that's why a lot of people think that he's a beloved character because of that quirkiness to him and just that like sharp observation nature to him. Together they are an amazing trio that brings the best out of each other. When you get these three together, they play off each other so well. You feel like these guys had great chemistry off screen, and seeing them bring that same chemistry with this worked very well. Sigourney Weaver is stubborn and delightful as Dana Barrett, Peter's love interest. It's almost like she brought that same kind of demeanor that she probably would have had in the Alien movies, except, less subdued than that. Still fun to like. Both Murray and Weaver are stellar together, with their conversations going from cold to flirtatious in a moment. Mostly just because of Bill Murray. He manages to like crank the tension up whenever he's just around her, that it just goes from like this one-off, she wants nothing to do with him, to she just automatically is just falling for his trap, being attracted to him. But yeah, both of them are great together. Moranis is bumbling and awkward as Louis Tully, Dana's nosy neighbor. Moranis also makes Tully a lovable goofball. I still miss that period of Rick Moranis, as much as I know I never grew up with it. But like, seeing the movies that he was in, whether it be this, the sequel, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Spaceballs, Little Shop of Horrors, you start to kind of really miss Rick Moranis. And it's just sad because, he's he's always just been a very lovable, likable actor. So I hope at some point he can make a return, and I think he is with recent reboot with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. But if so, I would love to see him come back. He's just always been a delight whenever he's in a movie. The direction is on point. Director Ivan Reitman brings the funny and excitement factor to this film. Reitman also brings a bit of horror and supernatural element by infusing with the comedy. The way Reitman manages to capture that New York, not only that New York vibe in a way that feels grounded, but makes you just kind of root for these guys. And also just bring, like I said, the horror and supernatural elements to this film, I think works really well to the point of it's not super scary. It can be pretty intense for kids, but for the most part, it's infused with the comedy, and I think that's what keeps it from like being like a straight up like horror movie. That comedy saves it from going that far to making fun of it or poking fun of like horror or supernatural tropes. But yeah, Reitman is, he definitely brought so much heart to this film, and it's so sad to see him passed away most recently. So rest in peace to him. The writing is solid. Writers Aykroyd and Ramis crafted a funny and intriguing script. It makes for a hilarious and fun watch. I also should have mentioned, rest in peace, Harold Ramis, because, I mean, of course, not only was he a Ghostbuster himself in the film, but he was a writer on this. And so you could see both him and Aykroyd just found that perfect balance of comedy and horror and supernatural elements to this film that made it such a delight when it was released 40 years ago today. And it still holds up pretty well with most of the jokes overall. The music is amazing. Elmer Bernstein delivers an eerie and whimsical score to the film. Also, Ray Parker Jr. makes a catchy theme song that's still used in the franchise after 40 years. That song, to this day, will be always played, not just in the Ghostbusters franchise, but even during around Halloween. This song has, catched so many people with that theme song. And so, to this day, people still hum it. Going back to Elmer Bernstein's score, I was surprised on how much there was that creepy, eerie vibe to it. Like, whether it's, the library scene, or the whimsical nature of, the firehouse, or even a bit of both in the Sedgwick Hotel scenes. So I was just mesmerized on how much that score really knew how to balance that humor and horror nature to it. The effects still look incredible. There are certain elements that haven't aged well, like with the terror dogs. Not the practical effects of them, like when they're actually built. Some of the stop motion just hasn't aged kind of particularly well. You can kind of tell by the tracing. You'll excuse it, but you do realize that, yeah, it hasn't aged well with regards to that. But for the most part, most of it does. It holds up effectively. From the proton pack streams to the ghosts, it all holds up miraculously after 40 years. It's just incredible on how much, for a franchise that is that old, it still looks amazing with regards to those effects. The cinematography is fantastic. Cinematographer Laszlo Kovacs makes for a smooth and natural looking film. The way the camera moves through scenes to keep up with the actors looks incredible. Even just by certain shots of this movie, still shots, it still looks amazing. And it keeps you center focused on the Ghostbusters through and through. They make you care for them, and it's due to really good camera work on keeping focus on the Ghostbuster members. So it looks incredible. The production is flawless, with a budget between $25 to $30 million, you guys. Nowadays, Ghostbusters is probably going much more with its budget, but when you look at the original, it's not that expensive. It still looks good. It's incredible that this movie looks like that with that budget. From the sets, props, and costumes for the Ghostbusters, it all just looks of high quality. They really spent the money wisely with regards to what they need to make sure it looks right. The story is genius. Seeing these three scientists become paranormal investigators is fascinating. It's not just about capturing ghosts, it's about starting a business. And I think that is what the best way to describe this movie is. It's about starting a business. It's about these guys getting together, creating a business. As much as I know that today we're kind of thrown with a lot of Ghostbusters imagery of the proton packs, the traps, to the ghosts themselves, it's just really about guys, blue collar guys really, just starting a business and trying to make a living. As much as I know that sounds stupid to hear, especially for a Ghostbusters movie, I truly think that that's what it really is supposed to be. It's about friends getting together, starting a business when nobody wants to give them a chance. And to see their hard work pay off and see these guys seem down to earth with regards to being these laid back schlubs, but are willing to be scientists in a way, or at least fight off these ghosts, is incredible, and you see it so much in how much the cast really brings their effort into them. The pacing runtime is perfect. Each scene flows and transitions feels just right with a runtime of 1 hour and 45 minutes. The movie flies by and sticks the landing. And I think that it should be, because if it had gone any over, I think it would have overstayed its welcome. But the fact that it was under 2 hours and was able to be just enough for moviegoers to enjoy, it's amazing. The film is almost perfect, except for one problem that I now realize now watching the film. So here's the only negative issue I have with the movie. The villain, as much as Gozer is present in this movie, I still think Gozer just isn't that intimidating. Again, their presence is there, but when they appear at the end of the film, it just doesn't do much than just summon the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I mean, let's be honest. Most people remember probably the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man more than they would probably remember Gozer in terms of, like, intimidation. But aside from that, Ghostbusters is a comedy classic. It's still remembered fondly to this day. After 4 years, the film is a hilarious good time. And I can see why a lot of people have grown fond of this franchise and with these characters. And for many years, it listens to them, still makes them feel good. As much as that sounded really corny or cringy, it does. So I'm going to give Ghostbusters 1984 a 9 out of 10. I think this is an almost perfect movie, but it is one that still stands the test of time and became one of the highest grossing movies of that year, and for good reasons. So yeah, I'm glad to have rewatched it in preparation. I will now have my review for Ghostbusters 2 and Afterlife Before Frozen Empire. So yeah, look forward to those reviews and other movie TV show reviews coming soon.